All right, in this video, I'm going to talk about how to use debug mode. And debug mode is used to help you fix issues with your problem, with your code. So here I have just a very simple class, and all it does is asks the user to enter an integer and then multiplies it times 4. That's it. So the input part is right here. I get the user to type in an integer. Then I call this quadruple number method down here. It's a very simple method. It just times the input by 4 and then returns that. And I store that value in 4 times number and then print it out here. That's it. All right, so what you want to do in debug mode is you can kind of go through your program sort of line by line, and by setting what's called a breakpoint in here. So here you can see Control Shift B is the keyboard shortcut for toggle breakpoint, but you can put a breakpoint in there. And so I'm going to just stop it right here on line number 9. So I would highlight line number 9 and then go to Run and then toggle breakpoint. All right, and you can see there's like a tiny little blue dot right here where I did that. That's going to be a breakpoint, okay? And so if you run it, just go to run like you normally do, it's not really going to affect anything. So all right, and so it's going to run just like it normally would. But if you go up here to run and then click debug, then you're going to get this message pop up. It's confirm perspective switch. All right, and so what it's going to do is kind of change the look of Eclipse on you when you do this. But if you want to use this debug mode, you should do that. So you should click on switch, and you can see it's going to switch the perspective. So you're going to have different tools available to you. So now, before I forget, because in the previous video I totally forgot how to tell you how to switch back. To switch back to the regular Java perspective, which is the one that you're normally used to using, you would go here to perspective, right, and then open perspective, and then Java. Boop. And that will pop you back into what you're normally used to looking at. Okay, so that's how you would get back to the normal view that you're used to. All right, so I'm going to again click debug here, and it's going to ask me again, okay, I hit a break, it hits this breakpoint, so it wants to go into the debug perspective. Okay, and so now here I am in the debug perspective, and the advantage of this is a number of things. The first of which is that you can go line by line through your program. Okay. All right, so, and then another thing is that you will get to look at the value of the variables as you go through. Okay. You can also add your own expressions over here, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Here on this tab, you can see where the breakpoints are. You can turn them off or turn them back on by clicking or unclicking these values here. Okay, so now, how do you go through line by line? So to go through line by line, what you would do is under this run method, you can see there's basically, well, there's more than, there's several options, right? But the two basic ones are step into or step over. All right, with step into, you're going to get more detail than you would with step over. And sometimes step into is too much detail. You don't want that much detail. Now, sometimes you do. All right, so I usually start with step over. So for instance, right here, if I do step over, which is F6, right, then it's going to go to the next line. It's going to do that line. Line number 9 got done, and you can see there's the result right here. And now we are on line 10. Okay, and on line 10, then I would type in a number. So I'm going to type in a 7 and hit enter. All right, and then I'm going to hit F6 again. Step over, and it's going to go to the next line. And you can see now it did line number 10, you can see there's the result of line number 10. We now have a variable called my number, and you can look and see the value that's stored in that variable, which is a 7. Okay, and then next here I'm going to do F6 step over again. So when you do step over, right, it's just going to do this line and move on to the next one. And then what I'm going to do is go back and show you the difference between step into and step over. All right, so step over, if I hit F6, it's just going to go to this next line right here. So it did this line. So there you kind of lose some detail, right? It called this method quadruple number, passed it the value of my number, which was 7, down here, and did this calculation, and then returned the result, and then stored that result in 4 times number. And you can see there's the result. Now I can see after line 12 was done, I have a variable called 4 times number, and it has the value of 28 in there. Okay, then I hit F6 step over again, and you're going to see we're going to get this message printed out right here. All right, so that is one advantage of the debug mode, is that you can run your program line by line and look at the variables, right, and see what the values are. So now I want to do that again and show you the difference between step over and step under. So I have my breakpoint set up right here. I am going to run, and instead of run, I'm going to do debug. All right, and that's going to run the program until I get to my breakpoint. And then now it's going to allow me to go line by line. And this time, right, I'm going to do F6 again on this line, step over. So it will do that line, and you can see that's the result of it. I'm going to hit F6 again. I guess I need to go here and enter a number. So hopefully that's okay. All right, I'm going to hit F6 again. All right, so it stepped over, and now you can see that line number 10 again created my number 6 right here. So now here's the big difference. On this one, right, I want it to go into this method and show me what goes on inside that method. And you can do that by going to step into, and it's going to go into that method. I'm going to click F5, which is the shortcut key for that in the debug mode. All right, so now I'm going to hit F5 and show you the difference, and this, it's going to go to the method that was called. So now the quadruple number method was called, and you can kind of see, right, that those variables that were up here, my number, have disappeared, right, because now they are out of scope, right? They are not involved in the quadruple number method calculation. You can see I do have a new variable there, number, right, and it was 6, and that's what happened. The number that I typed in my number, it got sent down to this method right here. So you can see, hey, it has the value of 6. All right. In the expressions window, right, you can also do stuff like type your own expression in there, add a new expression, right? And I want to do what would be 7 times number, right? So you can watch that, and you can see, oh, 7 times number would be 42. So if you want to figure out, hey, what would happen if I had this different expression in there, what would its value be? You can watch that as well. Okay, so that's under expressions tab. Most of the time you'll probably just be watching variables, right, and seeing what happens there. All right, and so now I am going to hit F6 again, and that's going to show me the results. Here I've hit the return statement, right? So the return statement is just going to send back the number in there. So I hit F6, and it bounces back to where it was called from line 12. In line 12, in the variables window, you can see the value that was returned by the method, right? This statement right here in line 18 sent back a number, right? It sent back the value 24, right? And you can see, hey, that's the value that got sent back. So this entire expression right here, the entire method call, got replaced by 24, okay? All right, and so now that's going to get stored in 4 times number. So by using step into, you can go into methods and look and see what's going on inside those methods. All right, and so now I'm going to go back to punch in F6. All right, so I get 4 times number created, and you can see that stored that value that was returned by into that variable 4 times number there. All right, and then F6 again. So you get that. Okay. All right, and so let me show you one more thing. I'm going to do this one more time and show you what might happen if you use step into too much. So I'm going to hit debug, right? And then I am going to hit F5 right here, okay, on this. So F5 is step into. And so if I hit F5, then boom, you find yourself, whoa, where am I at? In some strange place, okay? Where you're at is inside this other class. So if you hit step into, use step into too much with other methods, in this case we used it on the println method, it will actually step into there, which is kind of cool in the sense that you can see what's going on. But that's what I was saying, with step into, you might get more detail than you need. So I'm just going to hit F6 until we get back to where we're supposed to be, okay? And so it goes in there. All right, and so that is really the basics of the debug mode. It is very helpful for trying to figure out where you might have errors in your program and things like that. All right, and so now, okay, I'm done with debug mode. I've figured out what my problems were. I can switch back. All right, then what you can do then is, or what you want to do to get back to the regular Java window, like I mentioned before, is just go to Perspective, open Perspective, and then Java, and that will switch you back to the normal screen in Eclipse that you were wanting to do, or where you're what you're normally used to, okay, to do whatever it is that you want to do after that. All right, and so that is it for the basics of debug mode.